Authorities in Nigeria are warning of a looming hunger crisis. The worst flooding in a decade has killed at least 600 people and left more than 1 million homeless. The government's already battling with high inflation and food shortages, and the United Nations was warning that the country faced catastrophic levels of hunger even before the floods hit.
This is what the rainy season usually looks like in Anambra State in southeastern Nigeria. And this is what the same community looks like now. Swollen rivers have inundated numerous towns and villages across Nigeria, causing 1.4 million people to flee their homes for camps set up on higher ground. 27 out of 36 states have been affected. Anambra State is one of the worst hit. 1/3 of the state is now underwater.
We are suffering, but suffering is better than stealing. That's why we are here in this condition. The clothes that I'm wearing are the only ones I have left. The flood carried away all our belongings.
All our schools have been destroyed by water, so our plea is anyone that can help us should help us. Anyone that can help us should help us, please.
Local NGOs and philanthropists are scrambling to help where they can. People here say they feel neglected by the government.
So if the government has been doing anything, they haven't done anything yet. They have not seen any presence of the government.
With key infrastructure swallowed by water, many of the flooded communities are without power and people's generators have been destroyed. Critical infrastructures such as schools, healthcare centers, police stations, and banks can't operate. The Nigerian government says that though they received early warning signs of the flood, they never foresaw this level of destruction. And with the number of farmlands that are being washed away, there are concerns about food scarcity in the coming months. Southeastern Nigeria is at risk of flooding at least until the end of the rainy season in November.
DW correspondent Flourish Chakwora in Lagos told me why aid is taking so long to reach some areas.
Well, the reason is simple. The problem is simply overwhelming for the government. The Nigerian Emergency Management Agency is doing their best to reach out to people who have been affected by these floods. But you have to understand that many of these places are very hard to reach. And the scale of the problem, the magnitude of the problem is one that the government did not really envisage, like they didn't see it coming. And so reaching out to everyone, or being able to reach out to everyone, immediately is almost impossible. So many people are just relying right now on NGOs and philanthropists to send them money. I mean, we are talking about almost the whole of Nigeria being affected by the flood.
Right. And with huge swathes of farmland destroyed, is the country now heading for a crisis, a food crisis?
There are projections of food crisis coming up in a few months. According to the president of the All Farmers Association, which is the Association of Farmers in Nigeria, about 60 to 70% of Nigeria's farmland will be lost to this flooding. Of course, that means that we are going to see less harvest, less produce coming in the coming months, because farmers have planted their crops and now they've all been washed away by the water. Other than that, 6 months ago, there was already a prediction that Nigeria was going to be among 6 countries that would experience extreme food shortages. So the picture really looks very bleak right now.
And the worst of floods in decade, and blame is being apportioned not just to climate change, but also to poor planning.
Exactly. The Nigerian government has simply shown their lack of ability to really plan ahead. Now, just speaking about the short term, the government was aware that there was going to be a flood coming, but not much was done to prepare people for it, and also to, stock up on food materials, relief items for people that might be affected, And apart from that, there is a dam in neighboring Cameroon that releases water every year, and that water flows through the river Benue Basin, and that is what also makes the flooding issue very, very bad. So this happens every year, just that this year in particular, the damage and the destruction is just unprecedented. It's one like we've not seen in about 10 years, like you rightly said. And so so what we are seeing is that the government failed to plan and prepare for the water that they knew was coming. And in fact, you could see this even in their body language. They have this kind of, fatal body language, like, oh, we're leaving it up to God. Yesterday, a minister said that 80% of the flood that we are seeing is as a result of rain sent by God. That obviously shows that they have this attitude like there is nothing they can really do to salvage the situation, to control the situation. And that is a huge problem, because we are talking about the lives of lots of people, lots of women and children, of course, who will be hardly hit by this. And yes, it's not just a problem of climate change, but also of planning. I just also want to mention that 40 years ago, there was a dam that was made to be built in Nigeria that would have been able to accommodate all this water. But unfortunately, 40 years after, that dam is not yet complete. So this is a complex problem of leadership, planning, and, of course, climate change.
Understood. Thank you so much for that. Flourish Chakwora in Lagos.